Welcome. It is January the 23rd, 2023, in TstreeT Controversy and with Big J from Fight View 360. If you haven't heard, Australian boxing for the year has finally got some big boxing news with the return of WBO #1 contender Tszyu taking on former WBC champion Tony Harrison of Detroit. It's going to be taking place on March the 12th. We have it pulled up here from Main Event, Fox's boxing media, Ben Damon. It says, done deal. Tszyu will fight Tony Harrison Sunday, the 12th of March at an Australian venue to be announced. Tszyu is the mandatory challenger for injured Jermell Charlo, undisputed world title, while former champion Harrison gave Charlo his only pro defeat. I was at that fight. Charlo Harrison won in the Barclays Center as media ringside. Actually, great experience. One of the last fights I actually went to. Damn. So I do feel that Jermell Charlo had got robbed. I'm not gonna say robbed. I don't like using that term too much. I'm gonna say that controversially, Tony Harrison got the win over Jermell Charlo, despite the vast majority, even if you just go do a quick Google search or search on social media, Charlo Harrison won. A lot of people felt that Jermell won. Well, this fight was supposed to take place. When was it supposed to take place? January 28th, right? It was supposed to be this weekend?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, Aussie, oi, oi, oi. That's because Australia Day is coming up on Thursday, so I hope all the Australians get out there and celebrate Australia Day. But yeah, that was supposed to be this weekend on Saturday, the 27th in Vegas, and Sunday 28th in Australia. So that fight is no longer, but oh well. Yeah,
Jermell Charlo got a hand injury. A lot of people also on social media were questioning the injury. I personally believe that it's legit. Charlo hasn't.
No, it's legit. It's legit.
He hasn't shown anything through his career to me. I'm just saying, addressing, what people are saying. They feel for some reason, some fans, and I don't like calling fans delusional, but feel that Charlo has something to fear of Tszyu. So will that fight be revisited? Shit. Of course it'll be revisited, but likely not until obviously now, at least the late summer, early fall here in the States. Let's say July, August. I say July is realistic. That's on par for like Charlo.
Mid-July, I think. I think mid-July would be realistic. And kudos to PBC and Showtime, because they finally figured out that if you're going to fight an Australian who's the most publicised guy, you better off come to Australia. It'll make more money.
There you go.
Al Hammond's finally woken up to himself and gone, oh, shit, my fights aren't selling too well in America against these Australian blokes, so I'll send my guys to Australia. Smart move. This fight should have happened 18 months ago, but I'm glad it's here now, and it'll give Tszyu the opportunity to prove himself and that he's ready for Charlo, or the hype train's going to be derailed. One of the two. Yeah, and I think Harrison's going to get him. What do you think?
But just to give some praise to Al Heyman really quick. Thank you, Al Heyman. He is getting pretty aggressive with his fighters. From what we're hearing about in 2023 with Stephen Fulton, likely going over to Japan to face Inoue in his first fight at 122 pounds. So, you got
to go where the money is. It's smart business.
Exactly. So, but as a hardcore boxing fan, PBC, doesn't have the best reputation in sending their fights. I'm talking about their top guys, or who they consider their top guys overseas.
That needs to change if they want to make money.
It seems to be changing now, because you have Tony Harrison, a former champion, who's going over there. But personally, you want to know my personal opinion? I don't feel that PBC takes Tszyu seriously. I think that the plan is for Tony Harrison to go over there and beat Tszyu, and then you have Charlo Harrison 3 here in the States. Which is
but I don't think that would go. I mean,
it's a big fight here in the States.
I don't think people are jumping up and down about Tony Harrison Charlo 3.
What? No, but what I mean, PBC would. It did very good numbers, and the build-up, everything about the fight. I'm sorry, but one thing for sure is they would be, Tony Harrison will sell more here in the States than Tszyu. And despite Charlo's injury, let's not forget that there has been some rumors that the fight wasn't selling as well as it was expected to be selling because Tszyu is not known over here. Remember how hard remember how hard of a time I was having watching his fights, and I'm a hardcore. So imagine not only that, but having to stay up or be up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning on a weekday, a work day. So Tszyu, I'm sorry, he's not that. No. In hardcore boxing circles, but no, he's not like known over here. So I think this is good because if he does win, not only does his name get boosted, and I'm interested to see what the broadcast deal is going to be over here. Because what is March 12th? That's going to be a Saturday for us, right? Yeah, it's going to be a Saturday for us. So hopefully
it'll be March 12th. That's a Sunday in Australia. It'll be a Saturday night for you guys.
Yeah. So are they going to do this in the morning over there? Do you know anything about that? Is it going to be a midday card for you guys?
Yeah, it'll be exactly like the two George Haney cards. It'll kick off around mid-morning, and it'll go to probably 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense because now he's going to be getting that exposure, Tszyu, on Showtime against a somewhat established, fighter here in the States. I'm not saying Tony Harrison is a household name. But his fights against Charlo did big numbers. Some of the biggest numbers that PBC has done, well, they were on Fox. We do have to say that. But they've done big numbers. It'll be an in-house fight for PBC. They don't have to worry about, having to share and split money with no limit.
And it will drum interest in the trilogy. So
correct. So
if he wins,
but let's talk about it. Do you think that Tszyu is going to be Tony Harrison? I don't. I like Tszyu.
I give it 60-40 in the way of.
Go ahead.
I give it 60-40 in the way of Harrison. I don't believe it's 60-40, but Harrison is on ever since he lost that rematch. He's been on decline. He had that draw of old mate he should have kicked the shit out of.
He did.
The Sergio Garcia
but he
fight.
Did look good.
He looks like he's on a.
If you remember, he looked really good against Sergio Garcia. We saw like some boxing.
Well, the key to beating Tszyu is getting to him in the first round. If Harrison goes after him in the first round, he could possibly knock him down, if not knock him out. Mm-hmm. So he's got to go after him early. But Harrison has a tendency to gas in the later rounds, and that's how Charlo got him in the rematch.
Well, like we talked about, Tszyu don't have enough on his record to convince me. It all passes the eye test. It all passes the eye test. But as far as like what we've seen, I wasn't impressed with Terrell Goucher. That's another fight I've seen in person.
That was a shocking fight.
Terrell Goucher fought exactly like I expected Terrell Goucher to fight. Takashi Inoue, Steve Spark, who just beat Montana Love at, what was that, 140? And this fight took place at 152?
Yep, that was 140.
153.
140, yep.
Dennis Hogan, long in the tooth, over the hill. Bowen Morgan, sick, no voice. God knows what was going on with him that week. Jeff Horn. It's nothing on the resume. And this is just me being a hardcore boxing fan. I've watched enough, because we got a lot of hardcore Tszyu fans. I do admit we're grateful for you guys because we have been putting out consistent Tszyu content for a long time now. And thousands and thousands have watched. So I already know how they're going to be in the comments, saying like, "Oh,
they're going to slaughter us."
Yeah, I know, but it's like, listen, I'm saying some real shit. I'm looking at the box rec. I watch hundreds of fights a year. Maybe dozens now, not as many as I used to, but I got thousands of fights under my belt. I haven't seen anything yet. And just like I said about many fighters in the past, just like Caleb Plant, for me, it was Anthony Durrell. If he beat Anthony Durrell, I said, all right, now I believe. For Tszyu, he's got to beat Tony Harrison for me to be like, okay, I believe. I'm not going to say I believe he can beat Jermell Charlo. No, I'm not going to say that. But I'm saying, okay, I see something in you. But Terrell Goucher wasn't enough. Takashi
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Stevie Spark wasn't enough.
I agree exactly what you said. To date, his still most credible opponent was Dennis Hogan, and he beat the shit out of him. So
there you go. And then when we got somebody close in Mixed Zarafa, that fight fell apart.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I really can't see how Tim wins. Like, maybe longevity and body shots. I think that's his key to success. But if he does what he always does in every fight, like he's amateurish in the first round, he doesn't get his guard up, he's got no head movement, Tony Harrison will beat the shit out of him. And remember, here's another factor. Tim hasn't fought in a year, which is his longest layoff period. And his hands are fucked. Don't forget that. His hands are buggered. So it's going to be a very tall order for Tim Tszyu to pull this off.
Yeah, let's play this segment from Fox Sports of them. It's about 4 minutes long, so we're gonna let just the audio play through, cut back in with video. You guys listen in. This is this is the first official announcement of the fight over there in Australia from their broadcast, and this is on the Fox. Whose page is this on? This is on the main event Australia Facebook page. Let's listen into the details. Take your time out. Like the video, subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at TstreeT Controversy, and down below at the bottom of the screen there, you'll see it says follow Twitter Old Meat Big J. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Oh, let me just go ahead and get this out of the way. Fox Sports and Main Event has been very kind to us over the last year or so. The first year or so we were getting copyright strikes. So yes, this video is fair use, and we're using this clip from Fox Sports to promote the fight and also for educational research, reaction, and news reporting. So here's the fair use disclaimer right there on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and play. Once again, hit the like button, subscribe.
Boxer Tim Tszyu will take the biggest risk of his professional boxing career when he fights former world champion Tony Harrison in Australia on March the 12th. Tszyu is the mandatory challenger to injured undisputed champion Jermell Charlo, but rather than wait for that fight, he'll face Harrison, who is the only man ever to beat Charlo. It is big news, and for more on this main event's Ben Damon joins me now. Great to see you, Ben, as always. It's a massive event, but why is Tszyu taking such a big risk?
Aussie, it's a fair question because he could just wait around. Tim Tszyu doesn't need to take this fight. He is mandatory for Jermell Charlo, so he could just stay and eventually face Charlo, but he hasn't fought since March of last year, so it's a long gap between fights if he does that and Charlo comes back from that broken hand, say, mid-year. So he's going to get back in there. He's going to test himself, and the thing with Tim Tszyu, he's just so confident. He believes he beats all of them in the division. He couldn't get Charlo because he broke his hand, so he's gone to the next best in the division, and the only man who has beaten Jermell Charlo in Tony Harrison, a former world champion himself. It's a really, really tough fight, a massive risk, but it is just a big fight and a great opportunity for Tim Tszyu.
It's mouth-watering stuff, and it's March 12. We know that it's in Australia, but whereabouts, because there'll be no shortage of bidding for this one.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's a lot of interest in hosting this fight, and of course things have moved around a lot. We only got this fight signed yesterday, so now cities are putting themselves in a position to host this fight. Sydney is right in there with Kudos Bank Arena. Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne is also showing a great deal of interest. And on the Gold Coast as well, there's a potential it could turn into a stadium fight, this one. So, yeah, there's plenty of cities who would like to host the fight. We'll know it'll be on a Sunday, so March the 12th. A Sunday here in Australia around lunchtime or a little bit after. So it is prime time back into the United States. Tony Harrison, he's a big name in the USA, a former world champion. Tim Tszyu, he is growing in stature in the US. So this fight will be in the daytime on a Sunday, so it can go live back into the US.
Okay, I don't want to ask this one, but what does happen if Tszyu loses?
Yeah, well, it's an opportunity for Tony Harrison because he's been there before. He's won a world title previously. He has beaten Jermell Charlo. He would love to fight Charlo for a third time for all of the belts in the super welterweight division. If Tim Tszyu were to lose this fight, he has to go back to the drawing board. That fight against Charlo goes away. He has to go and work on his rankings, get back in a position to challenge again. But for Harrison, it's a massive opportunity, a huge risk, as we say. But there is the chance, of course, that Tszyu loses, but he is so very confident. He wins this fight, he wins it emphatically, and he looks good in doing so.
I had a look at Tony Harrison's stats. I think it's 29 fights for 21 knockouts. He's no slouch. How good is he?
He's very, very good. He came through with Emanuel Stewart, one of the greatest boxing trainers of all time in Detroit at the Kronk Gym. He's been at the very top of the tree for a long time. He did beat Jermell Charlo for a version of the world title in a WBC world title fight, and he's been on a really strong streak in recent times as well. So Tony Harrison is a really, really good fighter, and he'll go into this full of confidence that he'll come to Australia, he'll take away all of those opportunities that are waiting for Tim Tszyu. But the good thing for Tszyu in this fight is if he does beat someone like a Tony Harrison, who's been in there with Charlo and beaten him previously, he knows that he's well placed to beat Charlo when they do fight later in the year. That is if Tim, of course, wins the fight. It's a really good building fight for him, really a perfect fight for him to test himself for that fight against Charlo. But he has to beat Tony Harrison, and that is not easy.
Yeah, we look forward to that very much, but there is another Australian fighting in a couple of weeks for a world title. Tell us about Liam Wilson's fight.
Yeah, Liam Wilson is in a really tough fight against Emanuel Navarrete. He's won 2 world titles at lower weight divisions. Now at super featherweight, Liam Wilson, a knockout artist who's really turned into a star here in Australia, producing that left hook from hell in his fight against Joe Noine last year. He's a very talented Queensland boxer, a brilliant amateur who now quite early in his professional boxing career is getting a shot at a world title against Emanuel Navarrete, who will go in a heavy favourite, the Mexican. He's a superstar from over there. The fight will take place in Arizona. It's on a Saturday. You'll see it on Fox Sports and on KO as well, live from Arizona on a Saturday afternoon. It's in a couple of weeks on the 4th of February. I'll be over there with all the action going on and can't wait to get over there because Liam Wilson.
That is the Liam Wilson. Liam Wilson is going to be taking on Emanuel Navarrete next weekend, to be exact, on Top Rank on ESPN. So back to Harrison versus or Tszyu versus Harrison. Where is this fight going to take place?
Undetermined at the moment, but they're trying to go for either Sydney, the Gold Coast, or Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in my opinion, I think Melbourne, or they haven't even brought up Newcastle, which is where they're most established, and I'll get to that in a second. But I think Melbourne is probably the most easiest one to get because they'll have stadiums available because the AFL doesn't start until that following Thursday on the 16th. So there's no competition from the AFL. They're talking Rod Laver, which is where Manny Pacquiao 2 happened. That holds about 14,000 people. That would be ideal. And they bring up the NRL draw, which is the rugby league competition in Australia. Have you got that up there?
Yeah.
You'll see that if you go down to Saturday, March 11th, the Storm are playing the Bulldogs the night before, so that really shouldn't affect anything.
Okay.
So they'll have a free stadium on Sunday. They can do the press conference, the weigh, and all that, very similar to Manny Pacquiao 2, and they won't have any interference from the AFL and no real interference from the NRL. Sydney's out.
So basically, they'll have a enough people. I mean, everybody will be able to watch. They're not competing with anybody or anything.
Not really, because the NRL's the night before, and there's no AFL that day. It doesn't start till the following Thursday.
Okay.
But the NRL, they've got 2 games on the Sunday, which is the Tigers and the Knights, and the Dragons versus the Gold Coast.
Okay.
Those games are both in Sydney. So you're going to get at least 25,000 people going to those different games because they're in different parts of Sydney. So you'll get probably 14,000 at Leichhardt and another 12 or 13,000 at the Dragons games. There's 27,000 people you're not going to get to go to the fight.
So how many people are going to be? How many people do you think they can get in attendance? Because we got to move on to the next subject.
If they go to Newcastle, they can get probably 20,000 plus in the stadium because the stadium will be free in Newcastle. Because Newcastle playing in Sydney that day.
And of course, it'll be a $60 pay-per-view over there for you guys. And
easy.
And here, even though Showtime doesn't they don't do too many international broadcasts. I can't remember the last one they did for boxing. I think it was Tank Davis when he fought over there. But hopefully we'll be able to see this on primetime Showtime here in the States. But before we go to the next topic, here is an interview from Tim Tszyu talking to Ben Damon, and you can find this on Ben Damon's Twitter page. Let's play this through, see what he's saying. Let me turn it up.
You're one punch away from going back to the very bottom. So it is what it is, all on the line, 100% gamble, but this is what I do. This is boxing, this is part of my career, and I'm a fighter at first. Or Australia, is the place where, it's going to erupt. I haven't fought for a year and a half in Australia, so I think the next show is going to be a big one. This guy was the next best available option, mandatory. It was again inevitable to fight him because he was the mandatory for the title. So it was sooner rather than later, and why not get it done in the meantime before the Charlo fight? So look, I couldn't care less who's in front of me. I'm ready to take him out.
Just some training footage now. But, I commend him for that, taking a tough fight when he already has a guaranteed title shot, because there was a lot of fighters in this generation that would say, you know what, nah, I'm going to sit out, and just wait for their title shot.
Yeah, you definitely got to give him props for having the guts to fight Tony Harrison, who's no slouch, and could easily derail his title shot. So, because if Harrison beats him, he'll never get Charlo. That'll never happen.
Done.
So,
and I think that's the plan from the PBC side, to be honest, because then they keep all the money and everything in house, and try to build up Charlo Harrison to be like a really big fight. But the other fight that's coming up for Australian boxing, you have Liam Wilson, who's going to be 11-1 with 7 KOs, is going to be taking on Emanuel Navarrete. Now, the way I covered him getting knocked out by Joe Noynier, even though he got the rematch stoppage, he ain't, in my opinion, he ain't beating on Emanuel Navarrete. I'm sorry.
No, I don't think so.
But
I think he's a little bit too inexperienced. But if he lands that left, that's going to change everything.
Yeah, for real. So I don't see it happening, but I am going to be covering that card. Also, on that card is another really good fight between Arnold Barboza and Jose Pedraza. That's going to be on Top Rank on ESPN. Do you guys have a broadcaster up over there? Maybe they'll pick it up late, maybe sometime next week, I'm guessing, on Fight Week.
Yeah, possibly. Haven't been focusing on that, to be honest with you. So
yeah. So let's go through, since we didn't have any a chance to do it at the beginning of the month. Let's go through these Fighter of the Year awards. Some interesting picks on here. I'm pulling them up right now. Where basically you got your Fight of the Year as Paul Fleming versus John Joe England. Explain that. What card was that on, and what made that your Fight of the Year?
That was just an absolute brawl. That was on the Sonny Bill Barry Hall card last March. So That was about a year ago. And those two just absolutely kicked the crap out of each other. Fantastic fight at 1:30. And Paul Fleming will be fighting again in March in Sydney against this Filipino fella. Hang on, let me bring it up. He'll be fighting a Filipino bloke on March 17th in Sydney. I believe that's going to be maybe an eliminator for the winner of Navarrete Wilson.
Okay.
I think that's the way that's going to go.
Okay, and Jai Opetaia, he's also my fight upset of the year as well. He was also recognized by Ring Magazine as being fight upset of the year with his win over Miris Briedis to win the Cruiserweight IBF title, but also, unfortunately, he had his jaw broken in 2 different places. And even though he won the fight, it's safe to say that he somewhat survived, because it looked like Briedis didn't take him seriously until the rounds that he needed to knock him out. And that's when he damn near dislocated or knocked his jaw off of his face. But still, nonetheless, I do feel that Opetaia may be able to beat him. It's unfortunate that he had that big upset, but not only did he lose momentum from getting his jaw broken, he couldn't do anything media related because he couldn't talk. So I'm guessing it's safe to say that he's going to be back sometime in the next 3 months or so, maybe before June. And you were saying that it will likely be, obviously a unification or against Masternak, who had beat who again? I forgot. Wheatley, right?
I think Jason Woodley was his name. Yeah. It was an Aussie bloke. I think Jason Woodley. Mm-hmm. They were fighting for the number 1 contendership for Opetaia.
Okay.
So it's either going to be mask neck or a unification bout, one of the two.
Yeah, and I see, you know, as we talked about before, the champions are WBC Myungo Makabu, WBA Ursula Gulamarian, IBF Jai Opetaia, of course, and then WBO Lawrence Okale. Richard Riakpor's has got a big win this past actually Saturday of recording this video against a former champion in Krzysztof Głoski. But we don't know what type of fighter after getting that type of damage done to him Jai Opetaia is going to be when he comes back. Maybe it'll make him better because, you know, he's already a very good mover. You know, he moves like a lightweight for a cruiserweight. But I'm not ready to say he beats Okale. He may be able to beat Gulamarian. I think he can beat him, and I definitely know he can beat Makabu. So we'll just wait to see what happens when he comes back. Your KO of the year, Renaud Quidlin versus Bowen. Explain that. Where did that take place?
Well, this is very much when Kiko Martinez won back the IBF featherweight strap. He was losing the fight. He took control in the 4th round, and he finished them off in the 5th. The reason for this is that Jack Bowen was expected to flatten Renaud Quidlin, and Renaud Quidlin knocked him out and knocked him out brutally. So that's my KO of the year. I mean, a lot of people went towards when Isaac Hartman knocked out, I can't remember his name, old mate, after the Zarafa fight, but that was a complete mismatch. But some said Liam Parra versus Brock Jarvis again. Yeah, Brock wasn't really, that wasn't an upset victory, so I've given it to Renaud Quidlin because I think it was thoroughly deserved.
Okay, and you have your female fighter of the year. You have Susie Q Ramadan, and I have Ebanie Bridges. So explain why you have Susie Q Ramadan over Ebanie Bridges.
Well, I mean,
Susie Q is 1-1, by the way, in her last 2 fights.
So 2 years, 43 years old, 2 years inactivity, come back, beat a former champion at 115, then stepped up to beat Shanika, who was 15 years younger, 2 divisions heavier, and gave her a troublesome fight. I mean, in my opinion, that fight should have been a technical draw because of the cut, and I give performance of the year for Shanika for battling through that. But that fight should have been a draw regardless. It was 5-5. You take out all the controversy, the ref, all the other bullshit, that was a draw. And I think for Susie at her age to step up 2 divisions and take on someone much younger than her, I think she's the pinnacle of what Australian boxing should be. Professional, you know, keeps herself out of trouble. Yeah, she might say 1 or 2 silly things, but that's about it. So that's what every Australian boxer should aspire to be. So that's just my opinion.
You know, you have Susie Q Ramadan, right? 29-4 with 12 KOs, 43 years old. No doubt she's a legend. Also, you know, supporter of the channel. We supported her as well. But, you know, she came back in 2022 after a 2+ year layoff to fight Tomoko Okuda, where she won 8-round decision. The next fight on Haney Kambosos 2, she lost to Shanika Johnson. But Ebanie Bridges, 9-1 with 4 KOs, 36 years old. Beat her rival in Shannon O'Connell. I'm talking about not just beat her. Shannon O'Connell, also a supporter of the channel. We've supported her as well. We've interviewed her. But Shannon O'Connell got beat. She got the shit beat out of her. It's no, you may not like the language I use, but it's no, like, listen, this is boxing. You know,
yeah, exactly. But Shannon was a near 40-year-old woman, and she had a birthday the other day. Happy birthday with a busted shoulder. So, yeah, and yeah, I mean, okay, Ebanie won, but she did everything she could to avoid that fight, which is not how a champion should act. Remember, they did everything they could to avoid that fight, and then she gloated like a bloody 12-year-old after she won. So that's not how a professional should act.
Yeah,
so,
you know, that gave me some real Clarissa Shields vibes, and that's just not, and that shit annoys me. I'm just go ahead and say it. I don't like that. It's like, take your win. It's like, okay, maybe the first day, you know, rub it in a little bit, but then don't, like, certain, like, I don't know. I didn't like that, you know. But Ebanie Bridges is going to be out until at least August, right?
Yeah, because her hand's fucked again. So who really won?
and we haven't heard. And we haven't heard from Shannon O'Connell what she's doing. And she's a no-limit fighter.
She'll get another fight because the other champions will look at her as an easy defense. So she's not done yet. So
and Susie Q is in talks to fight Ellie Scottney.
No, Shanika's fighting Ellie Scottney.
Shanika is in talks to fight Ellie Scottney. That's going to be a good fight. And in fact, you know, Shanika can get the win. And Shanika is also a Lou DiBella fighter. You gave your performance of the year, just so happened to Shanika Johnson. Explain that.
Damn right. Well, anyway, went through that cut where with her head bleeding like a sieve, and the doctor was going to stop it, and she goes, "No, I'll be right." To push through that, to be the first person to ever knock Susie down, right? Because no one's ever knocked Susie down before, and do what she did, get rid of all the controversy and all the other bullshit. That was the performance of the year in my book. So, obviously for female, I mean, male performance of the year is Joe Opetaia, but for female, yeah, that's how you should act. You know, don't let a little cut bother you. And she was bleeding like a sieve. So you said it's the worst cut you've ever seen in female boxing. So,
yeah.
You know, Montana Love has a little nick over his eye and cries like a 6-year-old.
Yeah, shout out to Stevie Sparks, too.
Shanika's bleeding like a sieve. No worries, mate.
Yeah. All right. You have a Rookie of the Year, Jasmine Parr. She's the
Jasmine Parr. John Wayne Parr's girl. She won the WIBA flyweight title. She's only 3-0. I was going to give it to Sky Nicholson, but after hearing what's going on with her, I'm like, nah.
Yeah, the rumors
she's
of what's
fighting
going
again
on with her, but also she's dreadful inside of the ring. You know.
Yeah, she carries her hands far too low. She's got no defense. A good counter punch is going to knock her on her ass. Yeah. So, but I think, and Jasmine's only like 18, 19 years old, so to do what she's done in only 3 fights, I think that deserves Rookie of the Year.
Okay. Lucas Brown, comeback of the year, knocking out Junior 5 in a fight that we both thought, that he was going to lose pretty much. We did give Lucas Brown credit though, saying that he does have that power that can change a fight. You have to always be worried about that, and he showed it.
Yeah, Lucas is if Lucas gets that right hand off, you're going to sleep.
Yeah, he's had 2 fights fall out for him. The Daniel Dubois fight, for whatever reason, the WBA wasn't.
That was bullshit.
They wasn't going to sanction it, but then he was sanctioned to fight Emanuel Charlo, who is a WBA champion. But then, that fell out. But, hardcore boxing fans who follow Emanuel Charlo in the heavyweight division and that cursed belt that he has, or underling belt, not to trust any Emanuel Charlo news until you see him on the scale. It's just, I already knew that it wasn't going to happen. So let's do some quick hits real quick before we go and talk about Manny Pacquiao versus Anthony Mundine rumors and what's going on with George Kambosos and the Moloneys. But a broadcasting news has come out from Australia where Main Event, the number 1 pay-per-view platform in Australia, has an exclusive broadcasting deal with the promotional company No Limit Boxing. The promotional company that is the promoter of Tszyu, Shannon O'Connell. They had Paul Gallen before he retired. What's their other big names?
Harry Garside, who was the Olympian that won the bronze medal. Paul Araucusto, who's an up-and-comer. And, Nikita Tszyu, Dennis Hogan's appeared on cards. Mick Zarafa's now with No Limit. So pretty much some of the big players in Australian boxing that haven't already been snapped up by an international promoter. So
okay, so now here in the States, we have a lot of that going on where you have fighters, signing with networks or promoters. For example, PBC fighters are affiliated with Showtime and Fox here in the States. But what does that do? That means that those fighters can't fight or don't normally fight ESPN fighters, and ESPN fighters don't fight PBC fighters, and PBC fighters don't fight the DAZN fighters. Basically, it's created a divide over in the Australian boxing market, where I don't think that a broadcaster like Main Event should be signing exclusive broadcasting deals in a market that's growing the way it is. It's kind of it feels like to me it's going to kind of stunt the growth, because then you have guys like Opetaia, where's he going to fight? Mick Zarafa, exactly. Where are they going to fight?
Mick Zarafa's with No Limit, so he's right.
Okay, all right. The Maloneys, what's going to happen with that? Do they have to go through their top ranked fighters? Do they have to go through Main Event? I don't know. To me, it seems like it's going to create more problems, especially with looking at the fact that January and February have no fights of significance They saved March with Tony Harrison. They must be offering him a boatload. But what's your thoughts on this deal?
I think it's going to be the equivalent of PBC and Showtime, and it's just going to go tits up. I don't like it at all because Joe Opetaia won't show anyone on Ace Boxing who normally they're associated with Eddie in the Zone, and that's another clusterfuck that I don't want to talk about. So yeah, it's going to turn Australian boxing into American boxing, and we don't need that. Main event should be bugger it. Supply us with the content. We don't care who you are because it makes them more money. So why would they want to restrict themselves to only one promoter? That's and then all the other boxers all have to run over to No Limit to get on main event. Which no, I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
And main event pay-per-views are $60 over there, but their non-pay-per-view fights are on their Fox Sports Australia. So basically, that's right. And we're not going to get platforms over there.
Yeah, so there's not going to be any more Ace Boxing, DNL, even on Fox Sports. It's all going to be just No Limit. That's it. So the main event's putting all their eggs in one basket, and I think that's a silly move, personally.
Yeah, it's not a big enough market for that. And then the Zone, they can't get off the ground over there. And then you have Stan, the streaming network, the equivalent to a Netflix competitor over there. It's called Stan, STAN. I don't know what the acronym is or whatever it means, but
I don't think it is one. I think it's just Stan.
Okay, but they aired the big upset between Sonny Bill Williams and Barry Hall. In fact, that was their second Sonny.
You mean Mark Hunt?
I mean Mark Hunt.
You mean Mark Hunt?
But it was their second Sonny Bill fight. So it's going to be interesting to see how that play out. Now let's talk about the Moloneys. Andrew Moloney is trying to get that fight with Kazuto Ioka. Any news on when that is going to happen, or if they're in talks right now for it to happen?
Don't know, but surprisingly, Jason's in Japan training now. He's going to be fighting Nonito Donaire for the vacant WBC strap by the looks of things.
And we're waiting for all that to be finalized. And Noye, who beat Paul Butler to become undisputed, has said he's going to vacate his belts. He is going to vacate, but I don't know if he's fully officially. I believe he did fully officially vacate by now. So therefore, the belts, fighters can start negotiating for those belts. So yeah, we can expect an announcement for Moloney versus Donaire soon. Really, by the way, Donaire's promotional company, Probellum, has went belly up. Due to the global scandal. And Donaire was a former top-ranked fighter during the heyday of his career, but had a little bit of bad blood when they split. So it's going to be interesting to see if Donaire makes his debut back on to Top Rank on ESPN. In the case when he was with Top Rank, it was on HBO. So that's going to be interesting to see. And what's going on with George Kambosos?
Not much. Probably going to fight in June with an opponent unnamed. That's all I know about George. He's looking at fighting in June.
Okay.
That's all I know.
Yeah, and I expect for when he does come back, don't be surprised if it's a top 15 guy, a guy that we know of, but, something for him to get a confidence booster. I won't even be surprised if the fight doesn't take place at 135, but maybe like a catchweight of 137, 138, just to make sure he's comfortable. I will not be surprised. But we talked about it before, but isn't it safe to say that George Kambosos is the highest paid Australian boxer?
Oh, easy. He would have made anywhere between $8 to $15 million for those last two fights.
And you would think that, he's going to stay around $1 million, maybe more, at least for at least a couple of more fights. They're going to try to keep him around.
At least. I mean, they know that he can sell in Australia because combined he had two fights with a combined attendance of about 55,000. So he can get a crowd. So.
And we're waiting for Devin Haney versus Lomachenko to be announced. It's looking like it may take place in May, and it could go as far as overseas, even though I feel that's a fight that should be here in the States, but they're going to chase the money for that. So some other interesting news is Manny Pacquiao possibly taking on Anthony Mundine in an exhibition?
Yeah, they're looking at all places, Papua New Guinea, to try and build the sport of boxing in Papua New Guinea.
That's what he said. The
So anyone who
cannibals,
doesn't
all
know
right?
where Papua
They're still
New
not with the
Guinea
times
is,
yet
just
over there?
north of Australia. Sorry?
Yeah, you told me they're not all the way up with the times in certain parts. They got cannibals and shit over there. Didn't you tell me that?
Oh, yeah. There's still parts of PNG that are very much still tribal, still living, before not living in modern society. So, but
There you go.
They're pretty up. They're up there with there's certain parts of PNG that are just like anywhere else in the world, anywhere else in Western society. But PNG is an interesting place to hold a fight, considering that the national sport is rugby league, and they maybe have 20 boxers to their name. I find it's a very interesting place that, like, anywhere in the world would kill for that fight. I don't know why they're going to do it in PNG. I don't see where they're going to get the interest from.
I mean, well, it must be somebody putting up a whole bunch of money. It's looking like from the article I'm reading, it's looking like they want to put it in June. I mean, I'm happy Chalk's going to get his payday. Also, Manny Pacquiao, he's pretty much freed up. From my understanding, his political career is pretty much done. But, and he definitely already shown that he should not be competing with these 147 pounders, or definitely at 154 at his age, with the way he looked against Yordenis Ugas. So, going on an exhibition round, it's like, okay, Pacquiao, Mundine, when the time comes, I'm going to entertain it. The last time Mundine fought was when he got brutally knocked out. Now, remember, him fighting Pacquiao is an exhibition. Nobody's going to be hurt or not getting knocked out, but, when he did fight, he got knocked out brutally by Mick Zarafa back in March of 2021, nearly 2 years ago. Yeah,
2 years ago.
And Manny Pacquiao fought Yordenis Ugas. That was summer of 2021. No, it wasn't 2021. So I'm going.
Yeah, well, I'll believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. To be honest,
So all right,
I'll believe it when they're both in the ring. The bell goes ding. So
all right. So with that being said, I don't think we missed anything. Take your time out, like the video, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at TstreeT Controversy and Big J at Oatmake Big J. Closing thoughts, and did we miss anything? I'm pretty sure we got everything.
No, I think we covered all bases. I mean, obviously, I don't think 2023 is going to be as big as 2022, because I think all the major fights are going to be overseas. But kudos to No Limit to getting Harrison here, and PBC for jumping on that bandwagon, because I realise that probably wouldn't do well in America, so bring it over here. I mean, I'm looking forward to what we've got. Hopefully, Tim gets past Harrison and gets his shot. If not, he goes back to the drawing board. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. So I'm predicting a big 2023, but I don't think it's going to be as big as last year. So,
one final question. Do you think that is any truth to any type of rumors that Dempsey McKean and Joshua is going to be happening? Joshua has a new trainer, by the way, with Derek James after leaving Robert Garcia after losing to Usyk twice.
Bullshit. Eddie said that he was going to look at doing that in the Gabba in Brisbane. Bullshit. That's not going to happen. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah,
so,
he was Spark McKean. Also, another name that's floating around is Jermaine Franklin, who had lost to Dylan White in Dylan White's comeback fight after losing to Fury. We'll see. I just thought I'd throw that out there. So, all right, take your time out, like the video, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. We'll see you, I'm guessing, sometime soon. Tony Harrison will.
William Wilson and Sky Nicholson are fighting February 4th, so we'll be covering both of those.
That, but I'm guessing sometime soon, Harrison will be probably heading over to Australia, to finish up some paperwork and possibly have a press conference, do some media stuff. So we'll be checking out that as soon as we get some information on that. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.